Well, some may say better late than never. A new bill, though, trying to spread where butter is served across Wisconsin.
Under current law, restaurants can't serve margarine as a substitute for table butter unless a customer specifically requests it. That goes for schools as well. New at 5 tonight, Samantha Cavalli live in our Fox Valley newsroom with a closer look at changes.
Right, Chris. So margarine first showed up in the U.S. in the late 1800s as a cheap substitute for butter, and the dairy industry here quickly saw it as a threat. Now that led to a ban on yellow margarine in 1895, and Wisconsin was the last state to legalize colored margarine back in 1967.
It's a debate as old as Wisconsin's dairy heritage. Butter or margarine? Some Wisconsin lawmakers want to make sure your kids get the real deal.
There's really been a push and a movement towards more local foods and simpler foods without a lot of additives.
Senate Bill 645 updates a century-old margarine law, which made table butter the default in public schools and eating places. The state has no definition for table butter, so legislatures want to remove the word table from the law. It would also expand the rules to public, private, and tribal schools, creating an exception for margarine that is ordered by the student, their parent or guardian, or a health professional. The same goes for restaurants.
We are not saying that you can't have margarine. We are saying that you have to have butter available.
Murphy, who grew up on a dairy farm and worked in the industry for decades, says the bill isn't about changing milk prices, but it does highlight Wisconsin's deep ties to dairy and supports local farmers at a time when many are struggling.
Revenue on the dairy farm has gone down at the same time these prices have gone up, and this is causing a tremendous hardship on our dairy farmers.
Now, breaking the rules is a criminal offense, and that could mean fines up to $500, jail time, or both. Now, the bill has been read in committee and still needs a full vote to move forward. Reporting live in the Fox Valley newsroom, Samantha Cavalli, Action 2 News.